There we go. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Airbrush Down Dirty Tricks. It is Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, 5 p.m. in California. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's see who we got in here tonight. Raymond Carson, Rob Sear, Adam, Jonathan. We got everyone's normal names. We got everyone's names again. We don't have their short names. I don't know why it does that. It's something new. I got to see if there's a setting I can change for that. Brian Moore, Ray Shea. Hope everyone is doing awesome. Michael Stanton. What's going on, everyone? Do a quick sound check. I think the sound is good. I think the video is good. Have a killer watchers. I'm making dinner and watching. Very cool. Very cool. Hope everyone's doing well. Is this my... Yeah, this is my first feedback since SEMA. Because I didn't do last week. Yeah, man. SEMA seemed like so long ago, but not. It was a great week. Hope you guys get to see some of the pictures. I was going to try to do some videos in live from the bar Thursday night, but I didn't want to do too much live there. Just there was so much going on, I just didn't get a chance to do it. So I apologize. I really got to do a better plan for one of the SEMA years. And like bring some cameras and like do something really good. Just haven't done that. Gary Shees, what's going on? Yes, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Comments. Commenting afterwards really helps too. So let's see what we got going on here. Let's talk about what we got going on. We have Gobble Gobble. Turkey skull. Rob, was it you or was it Brian Moore? One of you guys. When I did my like quick test the other day, you guys popped in. One of you guys said the turkey skull, I think. So it just stuck. You know, sometimes those words, you know, turkey skull, Thanksgiving, just kind of just worked. Just kind of hit my head and went, yep, we're gonna do that. That's what we're gonna do. So it's actually. There's not very many good pictures or reference of turkey skulls. And then you get vulture skulls, you get turkey. There's a whole bunch of them. So, Bob Silver, what's going on? So I finally found one that says the turkey skull. I looked at some taxidermy sites, and I came up with this little sketcheroo. And then, you know, Thanksgiving, you know, I figured the feathers, and we got the vertebrae going on. So we got this little guy here. I think he's very cool. Bring up my reference image here. Yeah, there we go. And I can go, whoop. So yeah. So this is what I ended up coming up with. Sketched it out on Sketchbook Pro. Did a few different layerings. And Brian, it was you. Okay. Skullified. Oh, Skullified Pilgrim. Okay. Yeah. Someone said turkey skull too. But yeah, so I think this is fun. This is going to be fun. I had a small pano here, and I really wanted to do a black and gray. And the reason why I wanted to do a black and gray, and if you've been following, that's what led to this whole strainer thing as well. And this is something I've been wanting to do for quite a while now. So I may kind of go, I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually take this. I'm going to go back here like this. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to zoom in and then it gets dark. Okay, so at SEMA, when you're on the fly and you're trying to do work, you don't have the whole setup. So we have paint that's there, we have stuff. I don't have what I really want, and I don't have everything. The only one that does is the master, Gerald Mendez. Gerald literally brings the studio with him to SEMA, or anywhere he goes. It's amazing. He has binders all organized with stencils and a cutting mat and his airbrush holders and his paint. Everything is meticulous because that is Gerald. If you know Gerald, that is Gerald. If Gerald pops in, I hope he does. Gerald is not only a master painter, but he's just a master at organization and making things neat and tidy. So watching him, I watched him break out glass eyedroppers. And he's got his paint and mixes all perfect. And when he paints, it's perfect the whole time. Now, you know I'm big at straining, and I get really nice results of it. But Gerald brings it to a new level where it's really tuned. And So I ended up talking about his mixtures, and he's going to do a video on his mixtures, so I'm not going to go through all that and exactly what he does and how he does it, because that's kind of his. But it's similar to what I do with a nice mix and a first live work. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for popping in and appreciate it. Welcome to the Down and Dirty Tricksters. So you all know I strained my paints, and look, I've heard people like, oh, I should have strained my paints, I should be able to just pour it in the gun and work. I don't know why people would think that. And for some applications it does. So when I was a t-shirt artist, grab a bottle of Wicked, Aquaflow, E-Tac, whatever it was, pour it in a CS siphon feed with a 5mm cup at 60 psi, and you just paint. You don't need to do anything. You do wall mirrors, you don't do anything. Just like automotive paint, you do a 2-to-1 mix, put it in a spray gun, spray it, it's done. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed for that range to work perfectly, and that's the normal range. When you paint at a hyper fine detail or really fine detail, you have to tweak the paints. That's where reducers come in and things like that. Automotive paint's a 2-to-1, but that's for spraying out of a gun. When you airbrush, it's usually 1-to-1. Okay. When you go on a micron, now you got to go like 1-to-2. I know guys do like 80% reducer. But in the automotive world, when you go to spray a car with pearl or flake or metallic or clear, you always strain into your gun. And most of the guns have strainers built into the color cups now. So you don't get any particulates, you don't get any things like that. So it's very efficient, very neat. And for airbrushing, for some reason, people are like, oh, I shouldn't have to do that. And I don't know why. Because an airbrush is even more finicky. One little dry speck of paint that might be on the inside of your bottle from opening and closing and letting air in there in the tip, that little nozzle is probably going to get through a 0.5, probably going to get through a 0.35 at 70 psi, 60 psi, and most likely you're fine. But when you're down 25, 30, trying to be fine, that little piece of hard pigment or dried paint or whatever, or even unmixed paint, is going to jam that fluid nozzle up and make it start and stop. So that's the most common thing. So, I've always reduced. Now, what Gerald has did with his, and I've done it before as well, but Gerald, talking to his recipe, is I strained my paint almost before I reduced it like 3 times through a big strainer. And then for my ultra fine white and black, I did it through the micro strainer. But holding the strainers was always a pain in the, what. So that's why I did and this is not really going to be an infomercial, but I just really want to explain why I did it. I got sick of taking my medicine cup. Let me get a medicine cup here. And taking paint. I'm going to get my face off here and get it out of the way. Taking paint, holding this, and taking paint like this, and pouring, and then sitting and waiting, and sitting and waiting, and getting to go through. These work great because they fit in the airbrush well. Like if you put it on the airbrush, if you put it in the airbrush, it works great. It just sits there. Same with these little plastic guys. Okay, they both fit on the airbrush well. So if you have an airbrush, I'm just going to put that here. If you have an airbrush like this, those sit perfectly. And then you can pour in, you're good to go. And that's when you're working on the fly. These metal ones, I've shown you how to make. There's a link in the description. You can make these yourself super cheap, almost for next to nothing. It's like, I think it's $7 for 2 of these, or $8 for 2 of these, and then you get 150 screens for next to nothing. I think it's like $5, $6, $7 for 100 screens. And that fits. So that's great to an airbrush. But when I wanted to mix bottles, you want to mix ahead of time, you got to hold it because these don't sit. So I came up with, the strainer holder, the strain it holder, and super simple, super easy. All you do, you're going to put the cup there. You're going to put your strainer on top like that. And you're just going to pour it in. And let it go. Now, if you have it really thick and it takes a while, it's nice because you can just kind of pour it and let it go through. And let's just see. This is the gray I'm using for the background. Let's just see if there's any dried particles in it. Let's see. It looks like there's a few, yeah. Remember, some of my bottles are years old, or they've been open and closed, open and closed. You might have some particulates in there that are a little on the dry side. So let's just see. If you look, I don't know if you can see it, but there's definitely a couple things in here. There you go. If you look really close, see there's some little white. Because the opaque white has such a heavy pigment, sometimes it doesn't all mix. And maybe if I stirred it enough, it would mix. It probably would. But that little bit's enough to mess a micron up. Because the microns and like the ultras, H&S ultras are 0.18, 0.15. That little bit's going to mess it up. So by straining it, it's really nice. Now what I did after meeting with Gerald is did these glass bottles. And this is a 60-40, this is 70-30, 70-30 gray. And I strained them like 3 times through there. And then I put a little metal ball in here. So these are always ready to go. These are my, go-to micron, fine detail, black and white. In my black, I do like 5% purple. We've talked about that, but you can do your own. And then I did a gray here. And what you'll notice about the gray I mixed with a transparent black and an opaque white. And you will get a gray, but you will get a separation because you'll see white pigment will separate. So glass bead helps to keep that mixed up, and you won't get sediment. So you'll see how well these work. And watching Gerald do it, and drop and drop, he never has a problem. So I do the same thing. It's a great habit to get into, and that's why I came up with these little guys. And a few of you already ordered them, and they're working great. And I did a red and a black one. You can get it by itself and just use your own holders. If you bought your own holders, like I'm not selling holders. I mean, I'm not selling these guys. These you can get at any retailer. You can get them at Amazon, Spray Gun, or Coast. These last a long time. I've had some of these going on a year, but I'm not selling them or anything. So you can get these by yourself. It works with it. You can make your own, like I showed you in the video, for free. Or I make a kit that includes one of the brass ones and like 5 or 6 extra filters, screens that you can just pop in based on the video. And then they'll come with some 1-ounce mixing cups. And I have a tall one coming out that you'll be able to strain into these tall ones. That's going to come out probably tomorrow. I have a few bottles that are like 11 years old. Yeah, and I had tons of that. So it's good. Price tag, it's on the site. It's $12 for the holder by itself, and that comes with putting like 10 mixing cups in there with it, so that comes with that. And then it's $20. That includes the filter, this brass one already put together, and then a bunch of extra ones, and the mixing cups. So those are ready to go. And then I got a tall one coming out. I think those are going to be like 18 or 20. Because they had to be a lot thicker because they're like 4 inches tall. So those will be out tomorrow. But they're available now for order. The first shipments are going out tomorrow. So that's my sales pitch on those. I'll do another video on them. But, oh yeah, here's the big one. So this is the big one. This is coming out. I've already made them. This is going to be able to fit a big one in here like this. Or even a full 2-ounce Createx bottle if you want to mix into those. It just makes it really neat. So yeah, if you look at this one, these glass bottles have a little have a funnel, and that'll go in, and you can pour right through. Easy peasy. A few people like these who need them. For the most part, the medicine cup size is going to be great. But they come in black, they come in red. I might make some other colors. So, just in time for the holidays. And yeah, that's it. I know that I've been missed, folks. John McKay, what's going on, brother John? So yeah, so that's my pitch on those, but let's talk about these. And I'm going to show you that I mixed these up like 5 days ago, and I've tested them each day, and they're just perfect because they've been strained so many times. And the little metal balls, the metal balls I get from Spray Gun are actually, they're like round, and they have like a flat edge, like almost like looks like a little Saturn planet. I've used those. They've been great for keeping the pigment, and they don't rust. All right, let's get back. Probably so sold. Cheese and grits. Do you get glass? Yeah, I get those glass bottles from Amazon. What do you mean lime green? Oh, for the holders? Yeah, I don't have lime green filament right now. I think eventually maybe I'll take some custom orders or we'll do some special editions. Maybe close to Christmas I'll do a green. Right now I got black and red. We'll go from there. All right, so these bottles are reduced really heavy. So you don't want to spray these out of like an Eclipse because they're super watery. These are great for the microns. For the background, I mixed up that gray, and that's what you saw me reduce. I'm going to spray that through just a regular gun. Yep, don't forget to like, subscribe, and with that being said, thank you to all my down and dirty tricksters who are supporting the channel. You guys stick with me a lot. Thank you very much. Don't forget all the downloads. You get 25% off all the digital stuff. And I think I turned it on for the stencil for the holders. I have to check. I forgot to do that before I got here. I think it's turned on, so I think it's 25% off for those. If anyone's ordered and tried it, let me know. But yeah, so thank you to all Dirty Tricks for support. And we got Black Friday coming up next week, so we'll have some extra discounts on digital downloads and content like that as well. The holders are pretty much going to stay where they're at because I really don't have a lot of room on them. I just want to get them out because they're cool. So, yeah. All right, enough salesmanship. Enough of that crap. Black and red, two favorite colors. Yeah, yep. Same here. So very cool. Okay. Turkey skull. What did I do on the turkey skull? So I sketched this out, like I said, in Sketchbook Pro. I actually sketched it in a few layers and kind of adjusted and put things together. That's a whole different video. But just a traditional paper sketch. So if you have something like this, we've talked about how I transfer images and how I do all that. Same practice. This is not a plot image or anything like that. Are you doing these live feeds? Great. Oh, man, thanks. Yeah, Michael. Really appreciate you saying that because it means a lot. And doing that, yeah. I want to buy them because they're cool. Awesome. Oh, and this will be my last live feed, I hope, with the temporary setup, but only having the 4 cameras without having the multi. I miss having like the 2 angles up on screen at the same time and being able to do certain things like that because I think it's a better feed. And plus, it allowed me to record each one independently, which this system right now doesn't. The new switcher finally shipped. It came in today. So I got to set that up and hopefully get everything set up next week. So it should, next Thursday, obviously Thanksgiving will not be a feed next Thursday. But maybe I'll see how the week goes and maybe I'll do either a Thursday or a Friday live feed. So I'll keep you all posted on that. So stay tuned on the socials. And if you don't know the socials by now, they are right here. Those are all the socials. You can check all those out. Share chaos at work. Oh, that's awesome. Sorry for the chaos at work. Okay, so how am I going to do my transfer? Simple, easy peasy. I did my soft pencil trick. And then I always print 2 out. And then this one I cut silhouette. Because I'm going to do mostly freehand on this. I just want to get the background knocked out. You go from there. So I think I used a 4B pencil on this. I usually use a 6, but a 4 is nice because it doesn't transfer as much as fast. So we're just going to go through. After I do the first, I'm going to check, make sure. Yep, I got a nice transfer. You know, I've done so many of these, sometimes I hesitate. Oh, maybe I'll just do it off camera. You guys can tell me, you know, some of you guys are first timers. You know, is it better that I do it each time? Or would you rather me just do it off camera and talk about it so we can get to painting faster? That's always kind of some of the questions that I ask myself when I'm setting up these feeds. Like, what do people really want to see? So I love your feedback. To make this channel better. Oh, and again, I'm transferring with a pen. I always use a pen. I'd love to get a 2-hour. Yeah, man, I really got to just haven't sat down and do it. I really need to. So yes, thank you for reminding me, and I just have to do it. I gotta set it up through Zoom, and I gotta actually figure out how to sell the spot because I don't want to. I need to sell it so basically I can give people a link to the room because I'm not gonna do it live on here like that. It's gonna be like a closed group because I want to make it so. I want to keep it like 10 to 15 people max, and maybe do also offer private sessions for people who want to learn plotter and computer and design and drawing. But I definitely want to do small group because I think doing it live with just open is you're not going to get as much out of it. And I think that's going to be a better situation to have it. You basically like a paid 2-hour session where you could ask questions and go from there. So I just got to figure out how to do it. If anyone's got any advice on that, I'm thinking, I think Zoom would be a fine platform to do it. I know there's some other ones, but I think everyone's kind of familiar with Zoom and how it works, and I think we can do a good one right through there. So, oh, thank you so much for the super chat. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Thank you, really appreciate it. The super chats do make the world and the class go round. Okay, let's get the ribs. I almost didn't do feathers because I never loved doing feathers. I don't mind feathers so much. It's whenever they're on a dream catcher. There's a whole history of me not enjoying dream catchers. It has nothing to do with dream catchers. It just has to do with anytime I got asked to do one, for some reason, the job or the customer or whatever was just touchy to deal with. We'll just leave it there. This wasn't a good experience every time I did it. Brian Moore. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I think I got everything there. So this is going to be in black and gray. So this process, the way I'm doing this will work on a motorcycle tank. This will work on hoods. This will work on canvas. This will work on illustration. This process is old, and it just works. And it's never a problem. So you can see that line work there. I'm going to see if I can focus in on that a little bit better. Yeah. There's nothing secret about this process, but it's just tried and true and works. So you can see, but if you use a pencil with this, what happens, A, it doesn't transfer as good, and the pencil gets duller after a while of doing this, so your lines get really thick. That's why I use a pen, and that I actually learned from an old Gary Jensen video on doing gold leaf transfers using Sorel, and that was the same theory, because you use Sorel with a pencil, it really pushes a lot down, but if you use a fine pen, it's a much softer, it's a much more direct line. Got some patterns in here. Like I said, you don't have to spend a ton of time here. It's really just getting your bearings. It's just getting the image laid out like a sketch so you have something to work from. And we should be good there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There you go. You can see that pretty good, right? Let me see if I can just back up just a little bit. I'm still lost in the mummy vector. I haven't finished yet. The mummy vector is not an easy one to start with. It's just a lot. Oh yeah. It's just there's a lot of picking, but you don't have to go too crazy. You don't have to like stress out too much over it because realistically, it's you just have to just play with it and have some fun with it. Don't have to dedicate it like 100%. Oh, let me take this little. This is a polishing cloth. These are great. We got these at SEMA. The SEMA booth looked awesome this year for Iwata, so those were great. We all know we like Iwata and all the fine brands and places we get our stuff from here. All right, so what are we going to do? I want to get the background somewhat dark. Actually, what I'm going to take this gray. This was a thicker gray I mixed up. And I am just going to I'm going to get a little texture in here. You're probably not going to see too much, but it's just going to give a little bit to the bone, like a little texture going on in here. This is like some of the videos I've done where I'll do like a base color where I'll spray like water on it and let it kind of run and get some grit and texture. By doing this early, most of it's going to go away, but in your dead space where you don't paint any line work, it'll just give a little interest. You know what I mean? So it does a lot of work for you that when you're doing this for a client, and they'll look at the artwork and be like, "Oh my god, look at all all those little details and grit." And yeah, it took forever. You know what I mean? So I just put it like kind of where the bone's going to be. And now I'm going to do it. I want to get the background grayer. And that's going to basically give me a nice thing to stand off. So I'll bring the turkey into the foreground more. Let's see if we can get this down. Little magnets. And this is an aluminum panel, but we've had this discussion. Because this is a steel background and these neodymium magnets are a little strong. They're strong enough to basically just get through the aluminum and the PVC core that these have. To go from there. So now, should I do a swirly background? Or just, you know what, just like the concept. Let's bring the reference image up here. It's got that vertical. I'm going to do that. Just so it kind of looks more like the illustration or the concept. So if I was doing this for a client, they were going by that concept, say they expect to see that. So that's a good way to kind of achieve that. Long dagger strokes, just to make the background a little something. And then maybe I'll do a little quick drop shadow. I'll make this a little darker. But just by doing this, we'll have a nice delineation. I can't find the panels in my area. Somewhere in your state, there is either a metal supplier or a sign supplier that can order them. They can order 4x8 sheet. Or you just go to Amazon and type in polymetal panels. Or you go to Coast Airbrush. You can go to Coast Airbrush and order the panels. They're anywhere. But any sign supplier or metal supplier, any place that deals sheet metal, and there's a metalsmith somewhere in the county or in the region or in the state, somewhere that can get them for you. But you can always get it from Amazon. They are very common. So cool. Whoops. So now, if I just want to darken this, the nice thing about these is, a little eyedropper, just, you can actually do a nice little quick measure. So I should be able to have a little darker here. Yes, now it's darker. And if you do want like a harder edge, you could take the edge of like a piece of paper like this. If you wanted kind of like a metal hard look, you could just put an edge to it. I don't really want to do that, but you could if you wanted to. And now what I want to do is I'm going to just put a kind of a drop shadow under the heaviest areas. Because I don't want to use too much of this. But now we can get like the ribs and the feathers to kind of have a soft shadow to them. The vertebrae, I mean, I said ribs, so I meant vertebrae. Now we'll have a nice silhouette to work with. Let's see. There we go. Nice silhouette to work with, and if you want to cut with the paper, you really can. You know what? I'd like to get that nose a little bit better, so let's just hold this back. We get a nicer separation down here. Yeah. All right, so now this is a medium gray that I mixed up. And this was what I mixed for this is it was opaque white and then illustration black, transparent. And I put a few drops of purple in it, and it went a little too purple, so I put a few drops of orange just to take the blue shift out of it. But I mixed up just a nice medium gray, and this is lighter than this gray. And this is reduced 70-30. Whenever you see a reduction, the first number is usually always the product. The paint or the flake, the carrier base or the clear. That's always what's first. Then the second number is always the reducer. If it has three numbers, it's usually, depending on the thing, so on this it's 70% paint, 30% reducer. Okay. If this was a clear with an activator, a lot of times it'd be like, say, 2 to 1 to 1. It's, the product, the activator, then the reducer. It just depends. Let's grab the handy dandy Takumi. And after the great Takumi debate of the Iwata Facebook page. All right, so now this is 70-30. It's so much neater than pouring. See, Gerald always just has a solution. And what I also did with these glass bottles, these I just got on Amazon. I just did a reducer one. So if you really want to kind of cater, you could do a drop at a time if you really want to fine tune it. But that's getting really down to the nitty gritty. But when you're down to a 0.18 micron, these things matter. Does this need to be bright? I think it's a little dark. Is it a little dark? How's that? Is that better for you guys? Is it clear? There we go. Everyone good? I don't know if the chat stalled a little bit. It really looks good. Oh, Chris Garcia, man. Good to see you. I didn't see you pop in. You know what I'm going to do? Let's make this easier so you can see it come together a little faster. We'll do a little destructive cutting here. Okay, so now I want to separate the skull from the ribs and then the feathers. Ooh, I forgot this first. Hold on. We never got that hole. Let's put that back. That was continuity. Dan the Dough Dog. Who's Dan? Hey, what's going on? There we go. Good. Okay, so now I can hop this out. This out. That pulls that. That pulls this out. Nice save along the way. So look, you can freehand all this for sure, and I could definitely do it, and I'm going to show you that. But for you guys who are still getting the freehand, don't fall for the people like, oh, if you don't do it all freehand, you're not really good. You know, you don't have to do it all freehand. There's a benefit to using a mask because you get a different edge look, but you could do it, definitely do it all freehand. Or you can do the initial 5% like this, just to get your bearings. And then you freehand all the rest. Oh, yeah, it kind of does have that dream from Sandman. I was thinking it looks like, what's his name? From Khonshu from Moon Knight. Is what I was thinking it's more like. So see, now I can have that separation. So that separates the bone. And then, you know, bone from the skull from the vertebrae. Now I can do this and separate the feathers from the vertebrae. And it just gives me an easier bearing for later. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, his mask is really steampunky, at least from the show. I didn't read the comic much, so. But I do love the visuals of it. And if you want to go one more, I like this. Oh, yeah, thank you. So now what you can do is I can go like this, just rough out where that one is. And watch this, we'll just get this separation in here. And like I said, you don't have to do this, but if you want to, do it. So look, now I can separate this one. I'm talking with a knife in my mouth. And then I can do this. And, you know, it just gives you that extra delineation so you can just freehand without worry. Especially if you want a crisper edge and you have trouble doing it freehand. So watch, I'll do the eye socket quick. And then this is all really just down and dirty quick. It just helps you as a guide get all your bearings. And now you know where everything is. Right? You good? Is this light charged? There we go. I don't do knife skill videos separately. I've talked about them in many videos. We could do maybe, you know, that might be a nice short either like a 3-minute short talking about some basic knife skills, I mean, yeah, that's a good idea. Message that to me, or just I'll write it down now. Knife skills. Because I got to do a new quick straining video to how to strain and mix. Yes, I can read that. So this paint is mixed so well, and this I mixed like 4 days ago, prepping for this. And that's the benefit to pre-mixing the way you like your paint and straining ahead of time. So all I'm doing now, and this is why, you know, I've had comments about I use a lot of stencils and masks. And the reason why I do is really for the educational side, because most people, I try to do this for educational, so people can start learning. Yeah, that is really dark. And a lot of people don't have the freehand skills to just go full freehand. So I try to use a lot of the masking so it helps people kind of get their bearings. Because when you watch like this at this point, you're just watching me freehand. You know, it's hard to learn from just, it's like, because you just watch me do it. And it's, you know, it feels so dirty. Steve knows all about getting paint reduced right. I took a page out of Gerald's, Steve, and I have perfect mixes. You do is similar too. Perfectly mixed, multiple strained, my black, white, and gray, ready to go. And my little glass bottles. And actually, this was, like I said, for those just joining, that's why I made the strainer holder. And I'm going to reduce this gray a little bit. Oh yeah, Steve, you did sound a little nasally the other day, so hope you're feeling better. And I was only at 20 psi that whole time, which I forgot about. Now I'm going to go a little higher. And let me know if you're having trouble seeing anything. I think the camera is at a good light. So what I'm doing now is I'm going into my line work with a gray, and I'm kind of going to pick it out. But I'm trying not to do like super like heavy lines. I'm just trying to shade inside and outside it. And then maybe we'll do some little pick marks. Like right here, you get a nice separation in the bone. And I can tone down that. It's the Createx cough. Yeah, and it's the same paint I was using. What happens a lot of times, I reduce it right before the show, and I mix it right before the show, sometimes too tight to the show, and I might not have time to thin it really well or let it kind of do its thing. But I wanted to make basically paint specifically for my microns or for super detail when I want to get down to the when I want to get down to that micro level. You even run it through my Eclipse at a low pressure and do nice soft blends. I wanted to have a paint purpose built for that. Now, with a solvent, you can get away with probably mixing that and get months out of it. With water-based, I'd probably say you get a month out of it, maybe 2, before you might have to mix it again. Especially if the heavier white pigment, if it sits, you might get in the bottom. You might get really a lot of sediment that might not shake up all the way, but you'll probably be fine for quite a while. At that point, after 2 months or so, probably a good idea to mix it again. Right? Now, if you don't like having this line there, you know, you can cut more of the stencil. We'll just shade more. So see how I'm just going to shade more out of it? And in here, it's actually like, this is inside the skull. This whole area is a little darker. because that's like a hole. Actually, I'm going to reduce this quite a bit more because the 730 is not really. And I want to thank everyone today for who's has already bought the stencil, the strainer holders. Appreciate it. So I've got the first orders are going out tomorrow. So just going to do some soft shading here, and I think this is also a good time to talk about erasing. Because if I want to come in here and start like highlighting edges, like see if I want this edge here bright, you can already do that nice little scratch. Or I can bring out the electric eraser, and I'm going to bring out the electric eraser a little bit and get some texture. Those will be going on my Christmas list so my wife knows what to get me. Very cool. And I'm just going to start with the gray, and then I'll bring in the whites and some extra textures. I need to get a strainer and the paint cup holder. Yeah, so like I have the offer that'll have these with it. If you want to get this, so you don't have to go hunting for the parts and the screens. It'll come with like 5 or 6 replacements, and then the collar. These I'm not selling. I'm not going to be a store. These you can get from Amazon. They're like $7 for 2 of them, or 11 for 2, or something like that. I've seen other deals as well. I know Spray Gunner sells them. I know Coast. They all sell these. These are great. And someone was asked today, they said, oh, but they're really expensive because they're disposable. You throw them out. These are not disposable. I have the ones in my studio where I'll use solvent from time to time with it. And I have one of these going on like a year and a half of mixing really thin solvents and paints. And then once I'm reduced, I just use a little squirt bottle. Basically all I do when I do it, I just take one of these, a little squirt bottle, and that's it. They're clean. It literally takes 2 seconds. Give them a wipe out, and then it's done. Same thing with the plastic ones. Though, eventually you might fill them up. If you let them dry, they're hard to get out, especially these. And the one thing I learned, and I did it, don't strain chrome paint through these. Because once that chrome strains and settles into that mesh, it just turns into a solid. Like it doesn't even come back. Just FYI. So I burnt a strainer, basically ruined a strainer. For 2 of them, $7. Put us in poverty. Well, some people that might be, I guess. So the beak here is going to be a little darker. I'm going to add a little extra texture into it. So the nice thing about this is the paint's just working really good. Now I probably got it to about a 50-50 mix. Like I said, this is a mix of the opaque white and illustration black. What's the diameter of the hole. I have the strainer. Which strainer? So if you have these strainers, those fit right in here. This one is like 14, 15, like a little over 3/4 inch. I did it millimeter, but this 1/2 inch nut here, the insert, fits perfectly inside. I want to say it was like 24 millimeters. Yeah, you can get them from almost anywhere. So these are very fine cracks in here. So I'm just going to do the lines and shade a little bit, and then we'll let some erasing really take care of it. You know me, guys. I'm never going for photorealism with this stuff. If I was going photorealism, I'd have a photo of this guy that's real, and I would be copying everything. That's not my jam. It's not what I do. I like to always put my own kind of spin on things. Make them my own. I've always liked the term stylized realism. That's what I've always kind of done. Me and Rhino have talked about that a lot. The edge of realism, people go, oh, that looks so real, but it's nowhere near photorealism. Because photorealism would take 4 times as long, cost 4 times as much, and most of my work is motorcycle and custom car. And people aren't going to be spending, you know, they don't see the value in photorealism. Most customers, there's some I've done that wanted it photorealistic, but they are rarer from my experience. And this really comes down to pushing. The techniques doesn't change. It's just photorealism, you go a lot more subtle. I built the brass strainer, was not made the how-to video. I haven't seen. Yeah, and the plastic strainers work amazing. I mean, the metal ones. These are all you really need. Will get you 95, 98% of the way. And if you want to even finer, you can put 2 screens in here, and you'll get a much finer strain. The plastic ones are really fine. Like, you cannot, if you just do a 2-to-1 mix or like a 5%, if you only do like a 5% reduction out of, say, opaque, it won't even strain through those plastic ones. The plastic ones are super, super fine. Those are definitely, you want to mix in a 1 cup, let that reducer mix, and then pour it in and let it drip through. And that's kind of why I did these too, because if you want to mix it a little thicker, so it takes a long time to get through the strainer, you can just let it sit and let it drip through it over time versus like reduction right away. You know, they have the holders for big spray guns, so I figured it'd be great to have them from the airbrush side. And I'm sure it's only a matter of time before someone's going to copy me. I didn't reinvent the wheel or anything anyway, but I know some I've already gotten asked for the file so they can print their own. No, I'm not going to do that. But I'm sure someone will. But actually, it took me quite a while to get it right. They're a simple design, but like all simple designs, it just takes a little bit to really get it dialed in so they work well. It's not worth copywriting. There's nothing copyrightable. It's a strainer holder. And the cost of copyright wouldn't even be actionable. So like I said to someone else, if someone else in the community that we know does my exact copy and starts doing them, public floggings are better than lawyers. I mean, it's really just a strainer holder. I mean, I could copyright the exact look of how I did mine, but I'll have a provisional copyright anyway because it's already, I first to put it out and it's documented. And I can put it with the Library of Congress, but I don't. Maybe I will. But it's kind of too late. It's already out. If someone's that hard up that they want to steal a $10, $12 item from me instead of supporting me, then whatever. They can feel good about themselves. I'm more focused on making my artwork protected than this little stuff. But public flogging and shaming, man, goes a long way. Those copyright attorneys and stuff to really do it and actually try to fight anyone. I've gone through it with my skull stencils before. We have action on some people, but usually it's just to say stop doing that, and most people back right off. Luckily. And for those ordering them now, yeah, I'm going to be getting at least the first 17 orders out tomorrow. Because I only have 17 of the right size boxes to ship these out in. I have more coming in that should be here tomorrow afternoon, but I'm like, oh, I got plenty of those little boxes. I'm like, no, I only have 17 of them. So the first 17 will go out tomorrow. There hasn't been 17 ordered yet anyway, so I think we're good. So notice here, I'm not really doing lines. I'm just shading through. So I'm kind of... And if you have trouble with this, this is where you could cut the vertebrae and go, one by one. But it's so easy to just kind of loose shade, because these shouldn't be tight. What was that guy? A couple of guys that are just shades and fades. That's all you're really doing here. So that line is not really a line. I'm just kind of blending it to a kind of a nice shade. And then we're going to tighten them as we go. So we're going to start loose. Don't worry about the dark to light, because when I do this stuff, a lot of times I start with the mid-tone, which is what I'm doing here. But we can carve in harder details as we go. Right now, I'm just kind of putting in base structure of where everything goes, getting some separation. They still were selling the mini set. Oh, the business card size ones? No, they're not going to get sold. We've talked about that. No, they're so unusable for 9% of the people. They're not worth making. I do have a set I'm working on that's going to be a smaller set of different skulls. They're going to come out eventually. And they're going to be like a paper style, because you're going to be able to fold back different angles. I've been doing prototype testing, and the Mylars actually don't work well, because once you fold it, they don't fold back. So I'm getting those together, and I'll showcase those a little more. in the near future. It's time. It's just time. Oh, other news. Now that SEAM is over, I can start focusing on other things. Yeah. No, and you can do it. And I think it was something like the Army sued the Marines or vice versa because they basically used their pattern and then just changed the colors. It's amazing that happened. I watched a thing on that. Now the digital camo, which the digital camo was an absolute failure in a lot of it. They found it didn't work well. I watched a thing on that too. It was pretty funny actually. Okay, so I'm starting to kind of build the overall shape, and I'm going to start talking about light sourcing, top coming down. So obviously going to be brighter over here, and this whole top, and as it radiates around, it's going to be darker on the sides. This whole area is a socket, so this whole area down here is going to be darker than this, because this is like where the eye socket would be. This is going to the back of the head. This bone here, which I think would be like, it doesn't have a bottom. It don't have the bottom beak. It's just the top. This is the frame. This bone and this bone is the same. This is on the opposite side of the skull. So this will obviously be darker. So it pushes back more. Yeah, I watched a thing on it. They basically said the Marines one worked. But the Army one didn't. And they said what they thought was going to be good in urban, like, for the rubble, basically made them stick out more because it just didn't work well. It was too different from the surroundings, so. Because they just figured, oh, we'll just change the colors and that'll work. It's like, well, no, because the environment and the colors are different. Because you don't want hard lines in an environment that should be really soft colors, because you're going to stick out. Okay, so like this bone here protruding out is actually this one on this side. So you got to make sure. So this is the bottom, so the top side here is getting light. Top side here is going to be getting light. It's going to be a little darker towards the bottom. And we're just kind of setting everything up because we're going to be able to darken things and lighten things up as we go. I would say that's a fair statement about the head honchos. Head honchos in most things are usually idiots. There, a little more. The nice thing about doing this, by this point, most of my line work from transferring the pencil line is almost gone and invisible at this point. Yeah, kinda. So it didn't start out that way. The turkey skull idea happened, and then I was doing it, and I was looking up references. I kept coming up with taxidermy and those Indian feathers and stuff, and I didn't want to copy anyone else's mount. The Moon Knight Khonshu did cross my mind. I did look at some reference, but he's a much different, obviously more of a vulture type bird, bigger beak. It was actually kind of hard to find a turkey skull that looked cool. I finally found a few mounts that were done well, and then like I said, I don't try to copy anyone's even mounts or photography the same. I kind of use it as a guide and just kind of did my own variations. Put my own spin on it. And then just added some backbones in it. I mean, the backbones aren't necessarily correct either, but they're fun. I'm just going to do the feathers. There's going to be a lot of scratching and erasing in here as well. Just kind of want to get some patterns in here. You know, maybe I'll do a little of this. And that'll help. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. Just to get a little pattern work. And just so everyone knows, I'm not going to be putting, you're not going to get next week and be like, oh, there's a Black Friday half off of these stencil holders. I'm not going to do that. There's just there's not enough margin to do that. And I don't want to do that to people who paid this week and then all of a sudden next week it's half price. I'm not going to be doing that. So. Mike, yeah, it is a lot of practice. It's like playing an instrument, man. Anyone here play like guitar or drums really well and is really bad at airbrushing? Or bad at art? I don't want to say bad, just struggle. Because if you are like that, I would be the same if I tried to pick up that instrument and try to play it. Yeah, so what Mark, that is buried in color, I was like that too. Even when I went from being a t-shirt artist, you know, did mostly t-shirt work, to try to do more illustration and more like fine art automotive, I had that trouble where I would like be too fast and it would go to shade too quick and, you know, I'd lose it. I'd make it dirty or just, you know, it just didn't have the look I wanted because it was too much too fast. So I had to learn how to slow down. Yeah, and Jonathan, all that comes with, and I know it's a cliche, it's just practice. It's just, you got to develop that muscle memory. And honestly, those practice drills where I can just do dots like this, you know, that confidence at different sizes is really key. That you got to get that down, and that leads to being able to do dagger strokes really easy. And dagger strokes turn into nice soft fades because they are dagger strokes. They're just from a distance. You know, it's a cool thing. I've known people have done it. Coloring books. Do a coloring book and then just do nice shading. Like shade a coloring book like this. Watch. I'm going to shade this area up here. And then come in. I'm going to do some line work. See what I mean? And just practice. I should do that one. I'd probably get copyright issue, but well, maybe I should do that. I should print some of these out like comics. Like, I wonder if I even want that. I have so many images I could actually put together like a coloring book of images, and then you basically just color it in. It could be a fun idea. Yep. You know, it is practice. It's just, you know, the humbling thing for me was like 2 years ago, I got into doing the tabletop mini gaming and painting and stuff like that. And, you know, I could paint models pretty well. And then, you know, you see what some of the pros do really, and then I just feel like an amateur again. So I've been relearning that. You shouldn't. Yeah, it's definitely something to put together, or just I could put a file together. You can just print them out. So we'll get that shading. And look, I'm just doing kind of a very soft wash. Now, before I go to the white, what I could do one more time, see, I got that little bit still in here. Let's take my black. It's called a cake coloring book, yeah. Yeah, man, I'm down. I already got some paint by number projects, actually, for plotting. So I'm going to put 2 drops of black in. We almost did that one year for SEMA, because I did a bunch of images for SEMA, for Iwata, and we were going to do a coloring book out of it. It just never happened. So I'll put 2 drops of black in. And now what I'm going to do, watch, I'm going to make this eye a little darker. And watch it come together. Just a little darker than the rest, but still very subtle. And if you come back in, if you rewind and go back, oh, my new switcher when I get it, if I have it set up right, I'm going to be able to do it like instant replay. And I can like time it. But see how now I can work with that? Yeah, it is basically what's happening after a transfer. You know, that's kind of what I'm doing. Is once you transfer it, you are essentially coloring, and by using the paper cutouts, you can go and get harder lines. But really, you know, when I do like the freehand skulls and just freehand them with no sketch, that's a totally different animal. But when you're going like photorealism, where you're going by a reference and you are sizing up and you do a transfer, you are essentially painting by number or sequence. And then it's understanding shading, because I'm trying not to do a lot of line, like per se. Like I'm trying to not outline this like a tattoo. Yeah, no, I have some panel ideas too that, you know, if anyone's interested, is I was thinking of, because I have the machine, I can do it. I can dye sub the panels, or I can laser burn just a slight image onto the metal, so it's already there to follow along with. I thought about doing those. I have the ideas. It's time, and I have the artwork, but it's getting it all together and then packaging it and getting it up online and the website, and it's all that stuff that goes with it. Like, you know, these little strainer holders I designed. These are only $12, right? But I probably spent 3 days on it. At least prototyping, printing, trying them, didn't like it, tried it again, resized it, didn't like, changing the print orientation, do it again, change some sizes, tweak it, make it work, do a color, you know. So it wasn't just like boom and done. There was 3 days worth of work, and then I spent all day today getting it up online, you know, and ready. So this, you know, work goes into it. You know, and I'd love to, you know, work with some people that can help me get some other stuff out. I know me and Warlock have talked about you help me with my website, because he understands it, and kind of getting some other stuff, you know. But it's hard to do all that stuff. You know, when you own it, you got to paint it, you got to do the work. I got to do customer work on bikes and cars to, you know, obviously pay bills. So it's a lot. It doesn't just... And then I've had stuff where I've done all that work, and then someone's like, oh yeah, I just printed it out myself and copied it and did my own and made money off it. No, cool. You know, I did all that work to make it easy. You know. But see, I'll get this nice even tone. Yeah. Unfortunately, you got to do the executive. I don't mind the executive task. You know what? I like the planning and getting it. It's all the little stuff that website, SEO, writing the copy, making sure it's good, getting it up there, posting it online. It's all the other stuff that just takes time, you know. And it's time that, when you do it, you understand the value of it. But that's part of business, and that's what a lot of people have issue with, and I have struggled in the past. Is you got to do all that stuff, and you can't just say, "Oh, I want to make it and have it done." That's never going to happen. And realizing you've had an idea and someone else is doing it at the same time, well, they're literally copying you at the same time, right after you did it, on the same platform at the same time slot, saying the same stuff. That's been happening too. Okay, so I want these feathers to be dark at the tips here. So see, because I put those 2 drops in here, now I can go a little darker each time. Yeah, and I used to be, before I did this full time, so I was, a business development manager and outside sales for Sears and tires and wheel specialists and things like that for my area. So I have a background in it, and I have the formal understanding and training aside from just art. So I have a background there. And I like putting that hat on. But you got to put that hat on, and then, the next hour, I got to go paint a bike, quote a job, update the website. I should bitch. I mean, I'm not really bitching. Just I enjoy all of it. It's just I wish I had more time to do all of it more myself. Or get better at delegating to people. Like, I'm not a writer, and I'm horrible at writing. And that's where ChatGPT has been really helpful. Because I'll vomit up some words, and I kind of know what it means, and it'll make it clear so you guys can understand it better. So, I do get to go do a lot of fun things. Like, obviously, went to SEMA. SEMA's a blast. I get to hang out with all my friends, and I love watching you paint. I want to go to my studio. My life would kill me as soon as I fired the compressor. Repeat that. Well, luckily, my studio is separate. Fairly separate from the house, so I can pretty much do that anytime. Get a little darker down here. How are we doing time? 9:20, eh? Okay, so let's do a little erasing. Let's bring out Yield electric eraser. Let's get some highlights here with this before I start carving in more detail. Because I want to get some like bone texture. Any good feather technique for feathers? Yeah, trying to think how to explain it, and I'm going to do quite a bit of it. I like working it subtle. I like doing the scratching like this to get the feathers really like detailed. And I'm going to show you another trick. This is a regular number 11 blade, but I forget the number of the other one. I'll bring those out. You'll get a wider stance. We'll talk about that. I'll get to that. But what I want to get now is I want to get that like bone pit. So I'm just going to take this. Wherever the highest areas are where I know I'm going to make it brighter, I'm just going to bounce this off. You see how that starts to highlight and gets that texture? Or you can go. This works for feathers too, like if I want to do that, the main vein there. You can carve that in. And just get it started. That's definitely not the final. But right now I'm really going in for bone texture. Yeah, this technique works on canvas very well, because you can scratch down to the actual fabric almost and get some texture like that. So look, I can get right here, go really heavy, and that's going to a pure white back down to the panel. And you won't get any blue shift because there's no paint. What do we have here? The gray, yeah. Basically, so you see how that's already starting to come out. So these are the Iwata Medea erasers. There's lots of different ones out there. These are rechargeable. They're super nice. If you want something a little more powerful, the Sakuras are a little bit more powerful. They take regular batteries. Then the super powerful ones. There's some cheaper ones out there. This is a nice all-around. And you can use the ink erasers with, that's like a blue. I think I have it in here. Yeah, so these are blue solvent. And these are the Medea erasers here. There's also a fine point. Do I have the fine point? Oh, these are Sakuras. It's pretty beat up. This, I forget what brand this one is. This is another one. It's kind of a little weak. But the Medea ones are super nice. You can get them at Coast. You can get them at Spray Gun. You can get them at Maple. They're not expensive. And they're USB rechargeable, which is really nice because, never fails when you use the battery ones. They always die, and then you got to find batteries. How's it? Is it newer? Oh no, they I forget. You know what? The white might have been the prototype, and the black ones what came out because I had them before they were released. So they might only come in black, and I'm just using the white one because I have it. But it's the same. There's no difference in the Iwata, the Medea black and white ones. Just I know I had them when I was helping them with them. One of the perks of doing the shows, the Iwata, and working with some of the crews when they have some new ideas, sometimes they'll send me some stuff, try out, and get my read on it, and other people too. I'm not the only one. So it is nice to have that. Now, if I was on a blackboard, you couldn't do this, so you'd have to be using white. It would be a different look, a different process, but I love doing this. You can use a Dremel with an eraser chuck and a variable speed, totally. Honestly, I don't like all the battery Dremels suck. I don't like them. The ones that I have one, it's not Dremel, it's actually a Ryobi one, but basically the same thing. That you plug a full like 14, 18 volt battery into. That one works pretty good. Well, you go old school. You get the big draftsman eraser that hangs down. Those things, man, those will rip your canvas up if you're not careful. Yeah, you can scratch wet paint. The nice thing about this is the paint can be dry and you can get it. But I do the same thing with solvent. This is water. The other thing I do is, I've shown it a bunch of times, is I'll use isopropyl alcohol in the airbrush and use that to eradicate. I've done a few videos on that. I've been meaning to make a short on that, like showing just the multiple techniques of eradication, from razor blade to eraser to liquid. But I love doing this at this stage before I go in for darks. Because again, we're still in that kind of mid-tone white, mid-tone dark stage. So I still have a lot way to go. Yeah, I do like the Medea more than the Helix. I think the Sakura out of the battery ones, I think Sakura is probably the most powerful. The Helix, I used to love them, but man, they feel a lot cheaper. The body's a lot cheaper. I find they break pretty quick. Their plastic does not like solvent. These take a beating. Just looked up Netico airbrush strainer. They have all kinds of stuff airbrushing. I don't know what Netico is. Was that the ones that make? There's a bunch of different companies that make these. But again, these plasters are great, but they are super fine, and you want them. I'd still recommend making your own, like I do, because those are going to reduce most of your paint for your bulk work. The fine ones are really fine. And this looks cool as it is. Like, now it's just a matter of making some bolder moves and some darker choices. And I find the more racing you do like this for bone texture, you get really more towards realism. And you can just spend hours doing this, or however you want. Again, what are you doing this for? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for a customer that has a budget? that's only like, oh, I only got to X amount, so you can only do so many hours. How long do you want to work in this stage? So I could do this for 5 more minutes. I could spend another half an hour doing more of this, another hour, before I put the paint back in. Where do you want to be? You know. Yeah. So they make those. There's a bunch of different companies that make those. Yeah, they have a lot of weird extra tools and hobby tools for airbrush. A lot of them are gimmicky. But those work good. First when I bought them, I thought they were going to be really crappy, but they hold up really well. Honestly, the first strainer, the airbrush size strainer I ever got, was handmade from a guy in Brazil, the same guy that made them for Gerald Mendez found him when he went down there, and he would hand make them out of copper and screen, pretty cheap. But by the time I got them from Brazil, and I didn't mind because I wanted to support the guy because he made it really cool. I think I paid $90 for it, or like 60 or $70 for that little copper strainer by the time I got it through shipping and customs and everything else. But I really just wanted to support him for doing it, so I didn't mind. This stage is like almost doing a tattoo where you're kind of bounce shading. But it is coming together really nice. Well, I'm just working away my model. Oh, doing a model with tow truck? That's cool. Yeah, so you guys are liking it. It's fun. It's a fun project. Let me give it a half hour on this. We'll see how far. I don't think this is gonna warrant a second feed, and if I don't finish it, maybe I'll do a Monday feed. I'm gonna need to test out the new switcher. So maybe I will do one feed before Thanksgiving, and we'll use that. I'll use that time to test out the new switcher that finally came in. And that way I don't have to come up with a new painting for next week. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. Let's see. All right. So this I learned working with Rhino when we were doing American flag stuff. So when we do scraping like this, let me come in tight. So when you do a number 11 blade, you get really fine lines. See, so I'm going to come in here. You get really fine scratches. They look great up close, but they're really fine. Like, so I'm coming here like this and just shoot. Those are great. A nice trick, and I don't ever use many of these, but I use them just for this. These guys. I think, what are these, nines? Number 9s? I forget. I've talked about it before, but I forget the number. These guys here, these rounded ones. So watch what these do. What's nice about these is these give you a wider belly. So you can actually, for doing feathers, we use this on flags. See how much more that pulls? Is that focused in? Let's see if I can get a better focus on that. Okay. So see how fine those lines are? That's from the blade, from the number 11. Watch these. These pull just a little more. So when I want it a little wider on the pull, I'll use these because it'll be whiter. It's like using a wider. It's almost like using a wider chisel. You can get more white out of it. So see here, I can really get down to that. I'll do it again here. And then I'll go in after and do like the feathering. So this size. Does everyone remember the number? Because I can't off the top of my head. I want to say 9 or 12 or something like that. And I can. So if you like scratch board technique, scratching, try some different size blades. Or if you're doing fur, these are great. This looks a little too hairy, but when I cut back in, like if I should do this now, like this, I can cut back in. And hide that edge. Now it's a better edge. I can come in and soften those. Definitely more of an illustration technique. You can use this on canvas. I use this on motorcycle surfaces. This is on a metal panel that's painted white. The only thing you can't use it on is like t-shirts. Illustration board this works on. Glass this works on. We do it on motorcycles all the time. This is how when I do American flags, this is what I use to do the stitching and when I make the stars look like threads. I use this one. But if you use a racing technique, you can also use this. And this blade's actually softer than using these, the number 11s. Because these are so sharp, you get deep scratches. This, you can actually feather. The scratch is a little softer. I imagine, yeah, painting on glass is difficult. There's ways to do it, though. Heavy enamels work really good, like One Shot, Ronin, things like that, because they're so heavy, though, they hold themselves to the glass really well. And if I want to do some longer, but these, like I said, this is great for hair. It's actually better. It's just a little wider of a cut. And the other thing is just straight up isopropyl alcohol, which is just what I got here. And that's the other technique for eradication. You just go in and push. See that? That's pushing the paint, reactivating, re-wetting it. Got in an argument with a guy a couple weeks ago that said you can't reactivate water-based. Thought that was funny. Plenty of ways to reactivate it for coverage. So yeah, so you can actually soften up those scratches like that with just reducer. Or ye old eraser stick. Weirdest surface. I've painted on a lot of stuff. Skin. T-Rex bones. Little fossilized bones. That was a weird one. For big areas, this using the pencils like this. Ooh, sorry about that. Just gets your best bang for the buck. Spandex was kind of a pain. Did some wrestler work years back. Nothing. Most surfaces, nothing's really weird. The weirdest ask, or some of the weirdest asks I've had was, got asked to paint urns before, which isn't that weird. It is a little of a problem when the ashes are in it, so I don't recommend you doing it. I say no. And we're talking to my insurance agent about that, and she's like, yeah, you should definitely not do that. That is cool. Trick is cool. Also can manipulate the blade. Burrs. Yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. I tried that on aluminum my last painting and scraped to the bare metal by accident. That's because you need practice. Yeah, it's just practice. You get a soft touch for it. It's the angle you do it at. Like if I go too much, I'll go through. But you got to make sure it's just kissing it. And, you know, if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of scratching on a particular base color, like a white, I'll make sure I put a couple extra coats of base so it's really hefty. So I have a good buffer. Or I'll make sure I've cleared. And now I have a clear coat separating. So again, I have a buffer. You know, it's not just do it. There are, you know, there's ways to mess it up. For sure. The eraser is probably your safest. So we just like this image right now looks cool as it is, you know. This is a great stage to show a customer, like when you're working, because you can kind of feel out like their level of, oh my god, that's great, looks. And then you know where you're at with them, time wise, or they'll go, you know, I was expecting more realism, more detail, and maybe like, oh no, it's gonna get there. Just, you know, just want to show you the mid stage. This is a good time to feel out a customer and see if you're on the right page, or they're gonna say, oh man, I really don't like that position. Well, that's a good time. Because at this point, you're going to start getting into the home stretch of detail and finish, because all your bulk work is kind of done. You know, but I still haven't used any white paint. I am going to use it. It's just going to be at the very end. Oh, Alpha paint. Alpha is an enamel, like similar to One Shot or Ronin. It's in that same family of product. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my illustration black here. And I still have some gray residue in there. So now I can put some black in. And notice, because I did all that work straining this and mixing this color for a micron, I haven't had any spitting or tip dry or anything, because I made the paint for what it's going to be used for. So now we can shade under this eye a little more. So watch when this happens. Brian, this is a good point for you, because this is at midpoint. So A lot of guys go, oh, it's time to make it dark, and they're going to go straight black. I put a little bit, I put a little bit of this in, made the gray blacker, and then a little bit more reducer, so it's thin. Yeah, if you use the Autobone sealer and then you went on top of it and you scratch through, you're just scratching too hard. The Autobone sealer is really durable, so just more practice. So again, I'm not doing lines. I'm freehanding shading. Again, if you weren't comfortable, you could take this and just shade a little bit darker. But because it's thinner, I can come back in. I can put little bone textures. See how fast it already starts to get that eye socket. And really, I need to get this background pushed out. So now I'm going to come in like this. And just gonna darken here. So that needs to be darker. Another great person to watch do gray work is Steve Gibson, because he works in grayscale so well. Even for his full photo color, he works everything in gray. And then he does a CMYK basically print process with an airbrush, like he tints with those colors to get whatever color on top of his grayscale. It's an amazing process that he's a master at. But the key to his success of being able to do that is understanding the gray values so well, basically building a perfect black and white photo. But it's subtle. There's no heavy lines. I'm not ramming through. It gets easy. There's always a challenge. But once you get past, the challenge of, once you overcome the tool's operation, then you can just worry about the image and the final outcome. And because I don't worry about every stroke I'm doing. Is the airbrush working? That goes away, because you just get confident in your setup, your brushes, your technique. So the airbrush part is easier. The hardest thing for me when I'm doing this stuff is making sure I don't mess it up live on camera. Like, I've gotten some great suggestions, like do this on a live feed, do that on live feed, and they are great, but I'm like, I would need a production crew to be able to pull some of that stuff off. And when Kaylee was here, I could do certain things easier because she would read. I never had to even look up at the comments because she would just tell me what people asked. That made life pretty easy. So let's see how far we get in 10 minutes. And then what do you think, guys? Maybe do a Monday night feed? Yeah, it does look like a pencil drawing. And I kind of want to get to that point where it looks like a black and white, you know, illustration / could be pencil work. You know, could be a photo, but not, again, you know, I don't like going full photo realism, but it's 2 hours of just doing subtlety. And I'm going to take this back and do a little bit more carving, put that in the background a little bit more. See how that, just that little bit of shading? But again, having the paint really reduced well, strained well, really does help. So you guys struggling with, oh, my paint jams up and it spits and spats, and work on your reducing and understanding how to get that paint done. And I don't care if you buy my strainers or not. Get in the habit and the practice of straining and getting your paint mixed up nice. Because I said this at the beginning, so if you guys weren't here, and I've heard it said from people like, oh, I shouldn't have to strain it. It should just work out of the bottle. No, the bottle is to work as an overall, so he needs to do many things. So it's going to work on a t-shirt at 60 psi instead of a gun on a wall for an overall. But you can't expect an opaque color to work with a micron right out of the gate. You got to set the paint up for it. So any guys here who do tattoo work, yeah, strain your paint. That's why I name these freaking things Strain It. Just do it. Just do it. So as a few guys here are tattoo artists, how many different blacks do you prep? Just one? Or do you have multiples that have different amounts of whatever in it to make them flow differently? You set it up. You don't just pour it out of the bottle and use it. You tweak it. You change it. You purposely mix it for a certain effect. Airbrushing is no different in that respect. Seven blacks, exactly. And do you pour them out of 7 bottles, like straight, or do you mix 7 variants from like 1 or 2 different bottles? Honestly curious, because I've never seen guys really do it much. Exactly. So Rob, so you do what I did. You take your black and you do one at this mixed ratio, another one at this mixed ratio, another one at this, and you have all your different variations for different effects you want. So what I have here, this is my 70-30 mix that I'll use for my micron, but I'll add a little bit more reducer at certain times, or I'll leave it 70-30 so I can run it through a plus. But it'd be really watery through an eclipse. I could use it, but I got to be really careful. You know, you have probably different blacks. You know, you have black for line work. You have blacks for shading, for your shaders. Airbrushing needs to be treated the same way. For the massive amount of differences in the tattooing to airbrush world, there are a lot of similarities. And those similarities really come in to play when you talk about like performance and detail and that subtlety you get that you can't get out of a bottle like a cookie cutter process. Just not going to happen. See, I got a little too liney there, and I'm not happy. Not happy. So I got to get that. worked out. So I'm gonna get rid of that line work. That's better. See, even in here, I got a little too much line. So I'm just going to blend this out so I don't have an outline. And because, I went too far, I didn't like it. But because I didn't go super far, I was able to pull it back. Yeah, so like what I find is I'll mix my white and black and mix my own gray and kind of tweak it from there. That's what I'll do. Oh, that's the wrong one. Don't have it. The biggest issue that tattoo artists or even heavily trained fine art illustrator brush painters have with an airbrush, there's the tool, but I've said it for years. It's because there's no tactile feedback. There's no response from your canvas with an airbrush. You can't feel what it's doing. You don't know what it's doing. You have to watch it happen because there's no feel. Yeah. And what I'm doing here, I would assume if you're watching, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because I am ignorant to that fact. Basically, in tattooing, you do the same thing. You start building. You don't go right for the darkest dark. You start to build into it. And the only thing with me is I can go back over it and kind of fix it sometimes. If you go too far with the black, you're kind of locked in, right? You're kind of done. So right now I'm going salty. So see how I brought this dark and this, but this is still a hole, so it does need to get as dark as that because it is the background. So watch, I'm gonna bring this back. Yeah, and that's where tattoo artists and most illustrators have the issue learning the airbrush. You have nothing feeding you information to tell you, are you going too hard, too soft, too deep? There's nothing with the airbrush. It just, see how much that just brought that home? I balanced those two out. And this is, obviously, I have that black dialed in just right. Yeah, I think we'll do a Monday. I'll plan on doing a Monday wrap up for this and just kind of finish and kind of discussion. And hopefully I'll be able to do that with the new system and kind of give that a test run. I think would be cool. Let's just get this. I want to get this bone separated. Yeah, because Monday we can work on final details, final bone structure, how to do the feathers, background. I think we're at a really cool starting point. It's got a nice pop and dimension to it. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with this one. I think you'd be a good. Yeah, I've thought about it, but man, I don't have the patience for people. Like, if I'm working on them, when I want to get into a zone, I want to get in the zone. I don't know if I could handle. Did you know what this does? This canvas doesn't bitch, complain, or talk back. So I don't know. I thought about it before. I thought about it just to learn it, to understand it more. But and a lot of tattoo artists do go that. A lot of airbrush artists do go that route. Corey St. Clair is a great artist. Tattoo. Jonathan Pantaleone, amazing. Craig Frazier. Um, um, just dropped his name. Ryan Townsend. So yeah, yeah, headphones. Yeah. I love how you tied the feathers up. Yeah, and they're gonna be. You'll have this look like a leather wrap. And we'll build this all in final and get this done, and it'll be semi-realism. Ah, Fonzie's amazing. And he's a good guy, man. I love Fonzie. He's a great. Mondo from Vatican Studio, amazing. I've had the pleasure of knowing and hanging out with some really top tier guys that are just outstanding. Franco, I've met. Everyone, they're all just great. Yeah, I could work on this straight for another 2 hours and just keep going without a problem. I'm really into it right now, and the little nuance in the paint's working just nice. It'll be interesting. The paint's worked perfect this whole time. And so the test of how good this works is I will use these same ones on Monday straight out of here, and will they work is perfect. And the fact that I strained them multiple times and got them. Oh, yeah, Ryan, yep. So will this paint work as silky smooth then? Because I think it will. And then we'll do some final whites, and that should really bring it home. Something like this actually could be cool for my my class in May in Germany. This process, going from a sketch to this. So because I got to do that, those are going to be 4-hour sessions. So something like this could be cool. And I think, kiddies, we're going to leave it there for the night. Actually, before I do that, see, I can't just stop. I want one more. So I have it. I want to just pop him off the background a little more before I call it a night. So watch. Like, see how this is looking really good, but here's just kind of meh. Let's get that just a little bit more contrasty. And watch how much that pops better. Yeah, that starts to pop. Yeah, that's looking cool. supposed to be done for Turkey Day. Yeah, I might. This is really going to be a black and gray, but I thought about maybe a little brown, little warm tone in the feathers. I'll see. Probably not, but if I was to do that, I would get it fully rendered out black and gray first, and then slightly tint a little bit. So, thanks, guys. Yeah, I wanted to do a mostly freehand black and gray. You know, a little bit of, with a little bit of stencil work from the original source just to kind of contour it in, but ultimately it was about freehand black and gray and just really getting the subtlety down and showing you that with a purpose-made paint that's made right and set up right, makes it really easy to do and flow because you're not worried about brush spitting. It is the key. Set your paint up. When brand new paint, when you buy it, usually works right out of the bottle reducer. Remember, once you open that cap 10 or 20 times, you let air get in there, only takes one little piece of dry paint to jam up, especially a micron. That's it. That's why straining it is really, really important. So I am going to do the gratuitous plug. Strain it. You don't have to buy these holders. They do make it a little easier, especially when you want to fine strain it, let it sit for a while and really sift. I think I strained these paints 5 times. So if these will definitely help you along the way and supports the channel, and they're cool. So you can get them with or without the brass strainer. Just remember the plastic ones, I don't sell those. These do not come with it at all. I offer it with this kit or just the holder by itself. So, yeah, brown bars and the feathers. Yeah, possible. We'll see. All right, guys, thank you for checking it out. Hope you had a great night. I had a good time. We'll follow this up, I think, Monday night. I'll reconfirm. I'm just going to make sure. We'll get this in before Thanksgiving regardless, because I do want to get the new switcher set up, and I can hopefully use it with that. So we'll see. So you guys have a great one. Peace.